It's time to discuss who the Marlins should be looking to trade at this deadline, also who they should keep at the deadline, and cook up some mock trades.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I've been a diehard Marlins fan since I was 12 years old. I've been podcasting about the team for the last 4 seasons. Go hit me up on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2. And thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Don't forget to hit subscribe on the YouTube channel and let me know your thoughts in the comments section. And on today's show, we're going to discuss who's on the trade block for the Marlins. Who should they keep and not trade away and build around this deadline? Also, cook up some mock trades. Got a few teams in mind, a few prospects in mind, and have some scenarios that the Marlins realistically could do in just a week and a half. Let's talk about the candidates for the Marlins. I'm going to start by talking about who you shouldn't trade. Who should the Marlins build around? Too often this team gets trade happy and anybody with value seemingly gets shipped out of Miami. And I want that to change. I want the Marlins to have a different approach at this year's deadline. It's not going to be a full teardown like it was last year. Last year, the Marlins traded everybody seemingly with value. This year, it's going to look a lot different. Let's start with the obvious. Sandy Alcantara. Sandy Alcantara should not be traded right now. His value is at his lowest. The Marlins butchered the Jesus Luzardo situation from top to bottom. Last year, they waited. He got hurt, and then they panicked and traded him at a time in which his value was at its lowest point. Right now, Sandy's value is at its lowest point. And with a couple more years of control, there's not necessarily a reason for the Marlins to trade him at all. Let him continue to pitch. Try your best to get back any part of the old Sandy Alcantara. He doesn't have to be a Cy Young pitcher, but his ERA cannot be over 7. It would be malpractice for the Marlins to trade him unless you're essentially robbing another team and a team is giving you these prospects, these top prospects that you once thought you could obtain. So for this episode, I am saying that Sandy Alcantara, given the year that he's had and the way his value has decreased, just hold on to him. There's always next year's deadline. You don't have to move him. I know the salary is up there, but you're not trading just to trade. Jesus Sanchez is a realistic candidate. I have Cal Quantrill as somebody that should be moved. Edward Cabrera and Ronnie Enriquez both could be moved, but I wouldn't trade them unless you're getting an absolute haul. The sun, the moon, the stars. There's no reason to move Edward Cabrera. More about him later, though, because the Marlins will be looking at 2 factors when it comes to Cabrera. Do you believe that this success is sustainable, or do you want to trade him at his highest value? Because it is his highest value right now, and that's what you should be getting. You shouldn't settle for an Edward Cabrera deal. Just like I said, Sandy Alcantara, you shouldn't sell low. You shouldn't sell anything less than the highest value absolute prospect package for the ages for a player like Edward Cabrera. Anthony Bender is a trade candidate for me. I think he has a couple more years of arbitration. He's pitched to a really good statistical season. His ERA is under 2. Anthony Bender will be a commodity at this deadline. Kyle Stowers is not going to be a candidate at this deadline. Do not trade Stowers. He is an emerging star. You build around him. Kyle Stowers is the perfect piece to be part of your next playoff team, the future of the Marlins. He's not a free agent until 2030. He's an all-star. He is a building block. Kyle Stowers, I know you're going to see a lot of articles and hear a lot of trade rumors surrounding Stowers, but it's open out there. They're not looking to move him. They view him as a long-term piece in this franchise, as a building block, and that's the way it should be. So Kyle Stowers will not be moved at this deadline. Let's see here. The Marlins this year, the approach that they have, it centers around who you have on the field right now. Who's playing? And who do you think is going to be part of your core? How close are you truly to contention? There are 6-7 games under 500. I think with the loss yesterday, it put them to 8 games under 500. But they're still in a position where, realistically, if you think about it, you could look at next year and be in wildcard contention, because arguably they're in wildcard contention right now. And I was wrong. They're only 7 games under 500. Still miles better than they were a season ago, where they're sitting 30-plus games under 500. Everybody was dismal, and the entire roster got gutted. I can't stand it when fans of other teams look at the Marlins and say, anybody with value should be moved. Give us Kyle Stowers. Trade us Otto Lopez. Trade us Xavier Edwards. Just stop. It's not happening. This team is having a breakthrough year in terms of individual development. Stowers, here for the long haul. Otto Lopez, he's seen a power uptick. The Marlins view him as a cornerstone in this franchise. For the next couple of years, why wouldn't Otto Lopez be playing shortstop for the Marlins? Why wouldn't Augustin Ramirez be somebody that they could extend and build around? You only need to make a few moves at this deadline. You have to take the smart approach to it. And I think that's what Peter Bendix and company is going to do. Coming up next, I'm going to talk about some mock trades, and I'm going to start with a blockbuster. That's coming up right after this. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get on the game while you and your friends are jet skiing or going to the beach. You can make it an even better day. FanDuel it's a great way to track your favorite matchups. The app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet, and it's easy to use with fast payouts. Whether you're placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet right into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you're part of the action. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. I appreciate all the everyday listeners and watchers of the podcast. Hit subscribe, but as we are in the middle of the summer months, all the everydayers, I really appreciate it. Share the podcast with your friends, with your family, with other people who are passionate about Marlins baseball. We're talking mock trades here in the second segment, and I got a big one to discuss. It involves the Marlins and the San Diego Padres. And the Padres clearly need outfield help. Jesus Sanchez, to me, feels like the perfect candidate to go to San Diego and help them in a wild card run. I feel like San Diego has slightly underperformed this season. Apart from Tatis and Machado, their offense has been underwhelming. Sanchez isn't special. He's not a Juan Soto type player, but he's going to provide value to the Padres, and he's going to boost their offensive production coming out of the corner outfield spots. And he'd probably just slide in at right field like he's done in Miami. But here's the thing. I talked about Edward Cabrera and a potential blockbuster trade, and the Marlins are going to have to make a decision. do we keep Cabrera and risk regression, or do we trade him at his highest point? That's why I'm packaging Jesus Sanchez and Edward Cabrera together to San Diego to receive a major prospect package. The Marlins will receive the third-ranked prospect according to Pipeline, a left-handed pitcher, Cash Mayfield, seventh-ranked prospect, Kavaris Tears, and 12th-ranked prospect, Henry Baez, a pitcher, and the 16th-ranked prospect, Romeo Sanabria. Let's take a look at who the Marlins would be getting. Cash Mayfield was drafted last year. He's a big 6'4" lefty who's currently in low A. He has 12 starts this year. He has 34 innings and 51 strikeouts. The Marlins love developing pitchers. He's somebody that would come into the lower ranks. He's still 20 years old. It's a lot like Robbie Snelling in terms of age when the Marlins acquired him last year, and he'd be one of your top prospects. Mayfield is a really good pitcher and somebody that the Marlins would have to get if they move Cabrera. That's the type of prospect you want a deal centered around. The Padres won't trade Leo DeVries. They won't trade Ethan Salas. I think they view them as untouchable. But AJ Preller is known for making blockbuster moves, for just rolling the dice and going all in at the trade deadline. The Marlins and Padres have trade history, and I think they can work something out. So you're getting Cash Mayfield. You are getting the second player is Kavaris Tears. And that might be pronounced wrong. It might be Tears. But we're going to say Tears for right now. He's an outfielder out of the University of Tennessee. I really like this guy. I really do. He's in low A, so another young player, 22 years old, college bat, but still somebody that the Marlins could advance through their system because he's played through college. Kavaris Tears is performing really well in low A, hitting .241. He's got some pop with 9 bombs, 52 RBIs. He does strike out a lot, 91 strikeouts, but he's somebody who, with above average power, at least raw power, and good EVs, he's somebody that the Marlins they like that profile. And Kavaris Tears could be somebody that is included. Now, I know I said he was young, 22 years old. It was a little surprising, but I still think he's at the point where you develop him enough. He's in the majors by late 2026, 2027, if all goes well. So right around the window that you expect the Marlins to truly be competing. The other prospects, Henry Baez, he's on the 40-man roster. He is a pitcher in Double-A, so a little bit more advanced through the farm system than the other two I mentioned. He's got really good numbers this season. Right-handed pitcher, a 2.08 ERA for the San Antonio Missions through 18 starts, 86 2/3 innings, 83 strikeouts. It feels like he's ready for the next level and could contribute sooner rather than later on the big league roster in the Marlins rotation. Henry Baez, he's already on the 40-man. That's a plus. The Padres view him as somebody that needs to be protected. And I think the Marlins should target Baez. The last player is the 16th ranked prospect, Romeo Sanabria. Sanabria is a first baseman, and I purposefully was looking for a corner infield prospect to be included in this deal. Sanabria is in Double-A. He's hitting .287 through 77 games. Only 8 homers. You'd like to see a little more power show through, especially being a true first base profile. But you know what? That's something that the Marlins can try to tap into. They can try to get him to tap into a little bit more power because the hit tool is obviously there. He's hit for average each and every season of his minor league career. Apart from 7 games in rookie ball in 2022, the last 3 years, 341, 288, 287. If he taps into a little bit more power, that's an excellent prospect to have for a team that, apart from Davis and De Los Santos and Troy Johnston, who they're never going to give a shot, they're kind of lacking in major league talent and also upper minors talent with the corner positions, with first base in particular. De Los Santos was a good acquisition, but he's cut down his chase, and that's great. But you're seeing a decline offensively in terms of production. He was injured. There's still question marks regarding Davison De Los Santos. I think Sanabria is a great throw-in. Cash Mayfield, Romeo Sanabria, Henry Baez, and Kavares Tiers. And that's for Edward Cabrera and Jesus Sanchez. That is a deal for Cabrera that the Padres, that's a blockbuster on their end. They're trading 4 top 16 prospects, including 2 in the top 10. But they're getting a pitcher that's had a breakout year, that's pitching as well as anybody right now when healthy. I discount that Orioles start because he was dealing with the elbow injury, but as I'm recording this, and this is pregame, this is before the Marlins game on Tuesday, Cabrera's been awesome this season, and you got to cash in if you're going to move him. You don't sell low. That's the first mock trade. The second mock trade I have pulled up for you. It comes down to Anthony Bender. Anthony Bender is somebody who I think you can really capitalize on this great season that he's having. He's pitched to a 1.96 ERA and 41 and a third, 1.7 B-WAR, and he's ARB eligible for 2 more seasons. So he has an element of team control to him. And the team and package that I came up with was a 1-for-1 swap with the Toronto Blue Jays, who clearly need bullpen help, for Juron Watts-Brown. He's a right-handed prospect in AA. Has pitched really well, 3.73 ERA in 82 innings, 18 starts, and 109 strikeouts. I would love the Marlins to make this deal. He is currently the 15th ranked prospect in the Blue Jay system, but you're getting a back-end reliever who can close, who has an ERA under 2, who's pitched really well. That's who I think you can cash in. When you're a rebuilding team and you're selling at the deadline, bullpen pieces come and go. We've seen that before. The only bullpen piece I view as very difficult to part ways with right now would be Ronnie Enriquez, because I think Ronnie Enriquez could be the Marlins closer for the next 5 years. I believe in him that much. But I think Anthony Bender goes to the Jays. Jays give them a pitching prospect in AA who's having a really good season. That's a win for the Marlins. Interesting to see if the Blue Jays would do something like that. The other mock trade, I have one. The next one, this is where it comes down to the Cubs. So I talked about a potential Cabrera trade to the Padres. What if Cabrera goes to the Cubs? And you package Cabrera with a bullpen arm. You could package him with Lake Bacher, Anthony Bender, or Cabrera himself. This might be a slight overpay on the Cubs side, but I love the prospects that are involved. And that's number 1 prospect, Owen Casey. That is 3rd-ranked prospect, Jefferson Rojas, second baseman, shortstop type. And the 5th-ranked prospect, Jackson Wiggins, right-handed pitcher. I love Jackson Wiggins as a prospect. I think he's somebody that it would be one of my favorite returns if the Marlins can get him this deadline. He's in AA, 23 years old, and he's got great stuff. Through 13 starts, 14 games total, a 2.02 ERA across High A and Knoxville. That's a AA affiliate. And that has 62 and a third innings, 79 strikeouts. He's got a fastball that can reach triple digits. It has good velocity, 96, 97. It'll sit there. I really like Wiggins. Owen Casey, he's being blocked right now in Chicago. They're not calling him up. I don't think there's anything that Casey has to do to prove himself that he's a major leaguer. And he would slot right into the Marlins outfield and play. I think he could play every day. He's on a power stretch. He's got a ton of pop, man. Ton of pop for Owen Casey. I really like him as a prospect. Casey, Jackson Wiggins, Owen Casey, 19 homers this season already. Jefferson Rojas was the last piece of this deal. He's a second baseman / shortstop. And in 2025 across high A and double A, he's hitting .275 with 11 bombs, 38 walks to 50 strikeouts. So there's some decent discipline, plate discipline for Rojas. That would be expensive for the Cubs to pay, but you would be getting Edward Cabrera, who has more trade value than Sandy Alcantara. That would be, in my mind, a Sandy Alcantara deal that I would take at the beginning of the season. I would consider doing that if I was the Marlins. And now arguably Cabrera has more trade value. And if you want to, if the Cubs just want a little bit more, you throw them a bullpen arm. So it's 2 for 3. With you're getting 3 prospects, somebody that can play every day if you're the Marlins, and the Cubs get another arm to make a deep postseason run. Going to talk about a potential the potential approach for the Marlins, what it means at this deadline, but what it means for the offseason. Take a step back and really look at where this team is and what they have to do. Trade deadline talk is awesome, but there's still work to be done, and that requires spending money. I'm going to tell you why the Marlins have to spend money. And in addition to these trades, in addition to drafting well, right after this. Summer sports, wrong ad. OpenPhone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? Nope, you called the next one. And that's why having a reliable business line is so important, and that's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. If you juggle 2 phones for business and personal calls, you can keep them separate. That's what you want to do. You don't want everything jumbled together. OpenPhone solves that instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox. There's no more who's handling this. There's no more confusion. And after hours, when you want to sit down and watch a Marlins game, an AI agent handles those calls, answers those questions, so you'll never have to miss a customer again. OpenPhone is offering Locked On Marlins listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonmlb. That's openphone.com/lockedonmlb. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Locked On Marlins is on all the major podcast platforms. We're on YouTube. You can watch on YouTube. And if you are, make sure you're subscribed. But Spotify, Apple Music, you name it, they're out there so you can listen to the show on the go. The Marlins still have to spend money. This is the thing that I really want to talk about when it comes to building a successful Marlins team, a competitive Marlins team. It's not just about the draft. It's not just about the trade deadline. Yes, the deadline is a surefire way to inject talent into your system, albeit at the expense of trading away proven major leaguers. But in the offseason, this is going to be showtime for Bruce Sherman and Peter Bendix. They got to put their money where their mouth is and open up the pocketbooks and spend. I think this team can compete in 2026. I do. But it's going to take more than just the current dynamic of the roster. A roster that, as I dictated, could look a lot different after July 31st. Edward Cabrera might not be on this team. Ronnie Enriquez maybe is not on this team, and you lose a really good bullpen arm. Jesus Sanchez, gone. Hopefully, Jacob Marcy gets called up. Joe Matt gets called up. But those are prospects. They're young. They're very young. And I don't think you can go into 2026 just sitting back on your heels and not doing anything. You got to go out and you got to spend in free agency. That's what's going to show me as a Marlins fan show you guys commitment to winning. Bruce Sherman, according to Peter Bendix, wants to win more than anybody. I like what Peter Bendix has done. I think he has a good opportunity this deadline to do some great things. But it's not going to be enough if he doesn't get the help he needs from ownership. And that's with free agency. That's with giving a player or two a contract that doesn't break the bank. It's not Juan Soto. It's not Yoshinobu Yamamoto, where you're paying $250 million. No. But a 3 to 4 year deal, 2 to 3 year deal, Jorge Soler type contract, which I believe was 3 for 30, somewhere around the lines of that. That is something the Marlins should look at. Multiple free agents. I don't have this aspect of my mindset where I say, oh, don't spend money. It has to be cheap. It has to be smart, the Rays way only. No, it's a mixture of both. Peter Bendix has made some great moves. He's also made some questionable moves. I didn't like the Luzardo trade. I didn't like the Jake Berger trade at the time. Will Peter Bendix be able to spend in free agency? Not just cook up these waiver claims and these trade deadline deals, but go out and get an established major leaguer or two to supplement the young core that they have. And speaking of that young core, how do the Marlins approach them financially? Do you look at someone like Agustin Ramirez and sign him to a contract that essentially will buy out his arbitration years? We see other teams do it. The Brewers signed Jackson Chourio to an extension before he made his major league debut. The Red Sox signed Christian Campbell to an 8-year deal, and that hasn't worked out so far. He started off really hot and he's back down in the minors. But they believe that he's going to turn it around, and time will tell. But a lot of teams do it. We've seen the Braves do it for years, signing guys like Ronald Acuna, Michael Harris, Ozzie Albies. They've been. I know it's crumbled this year in terms of wins and losses for them, but from an organizational standpoint, what they've done with their players and team-friendly deals is what the Marlins should try to do with somebody like Agustin Ramirez and Yuri Perez, because it makes them a Marlin. You're locked into being a Marlin now, and you're showing commitment to the fan base. Yes, we want to win. Extend those two. Kyle Stowers isn't a free agent until 2030. He's not going to hit ARB until 27. So you don't really need to extend Stowers, but he's somebody that's here for the long run. And then supplement these guys, supplement the talent on the field with some free agents. The Marlins haven't spent in free agency the last 2 years. That has to change. So moving forward, as we approach the deadline in 9 days, yes, think about who the Marlins could get, should get. The talent that is going to make this farm system one of the best as it continues to grow and as guys continue to develop throughout rookie ball, throughout low A, and continue upward through the minors. They want this team to be a feeder system where talent can just keeps going. It just keeps going one after another. But I think what would set this team over the top is if they spent and they did both. You can have both. It doesn't have to be a top payroll. I'm never going to expect. I'm not delusional. I know Bruce Sherman isn't going to spend for Kyle Tucker. You know, would I want Kyle Tucker to be a Marlin? Absolutely. Who wouldn't? But that's not realistic. It's not ever going to happen. I wish it could, but it's not. But what can happen is the Marlins spend 2-year deals, 3-year deals. You know, give a deal to somebody that is going to come in and be here for a few years and make a run at the playoffs in 26. At the very, very minimum, 2027. They're just 7 games under 500 this season. Imagine what the Marlins can do with Jacob Marcy, Joe Mack, You have on the mound a healthy Ryan Weathers, possibly Edward Cabrera. If you move him, great. Then you have 3 or 4 top prospects in your system right now, waiting to come up. Augustine Ramirez, Yuri for a full season. And then a couple free agents who make this team better in the present day. Not just looking to the future, but looking what they can do to improve right now. So that is another aspect, both in the offseason and at the trade deadline. Owen Casey, everyday player, major league ready, somebody that will come in and prove it once and for all. Is he a major league ball player? And if he is, and the Marlins get him, then they have another cornerstone. So that was my spiel on ownership, what they need to do to truly make this Marlins team a playoff team for years to come and make the fans buy in to what they're doing. I love this team, always have, always will. I want what's best for them. I get frustrated sometimes because of the lack of spending, and I know the approach that they're doing right now is the Rays way. It's trying to be cheap and still be effective. Cheap. They don't want to spend money in free agency, but I think they should. I think they need to do so to capitalize on what they're doing with the waiver claims and the trade deadline and the prospects. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Marlins. I appreciate you all for listening. And until next time, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.